Hey family, you're tuning in to the Jimmy Bonds podcast on Illadelphia Radio. Pardon any technical difficulties as we are recording live on the Zoom platform. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Yeah. Jimmy. Lights, camera, action. Some people thought I quit and I ain't giving satisfaction. From a different era, writing rhymes up on napkins. What you had to say was more important, man, than traffic. Yeah, I'm talking back to speaking of...
What's good, family? Welcome to another episode of Jimmy Bonds Podcast on Illadelphia Radio. This episode is sponsored by Major Flavor Catering. I'm your host, Jimmy Bonds, along with my co-host, Ty. T.Y. What's good, Ty? How you feeling?
All good in the neighborhood, Jimmy, live from the 215.
You know, we do live from the 215. And you know, I can't forget my other co-host, the lovely Miss T with the T. What's up, T? How you doing?
I'm feeling good, Jimmy. How about you?
I'm doing well, Mom. I'm doing well. Remember, family, you can call us with your comments or questions at 844-844-1244. Again, it's 844-844-1244. You can also email us at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, it's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. That's JIMMYBONDS podcast@gmail.com. Also, fam, remember, you can find us on Instagram at Jimmy Bonds Podcast, on Twitter at Podcast Bonds. Make sure you join the Jimmy Bonds Podcast Facebook group. Make sure you join the Facebook group. We're going to continue to open a dialogue. Also, family, make sure you follow us and subscribe and like our Instagrams, our Facebooks, our Twitters, and also our YouTube channel, Jimmy Bonds Podcast YouTube, and Illadelphia Radio YouTube. Moving right along, family. Tonight, we are discussing a topic that I think is very important. You've seen it in the news time and time again. They kind of use it as a slogan, but I think it's very important. Tonight's topic is health and wellness. And we are lucky enough to be joined by my sister, who is very astute in this subject, very well familiar with it, my sister Vanessa Whitfield. But let me tell you about it before we get started. You know how we do, family. Let me give you a little synopsis of Vanessa so you can find out more about her. So Vanessa is an integrative nutrition health coach. She's also a functioning nutrition counselor in training. She is a wellness and home educator. She's a wife to her college sweetheart and also a devoted mom of 4. She has a passion for empowering women who are exhausted or overwhelmed and on the cusp of burnout, because she's been there too. She knows this experience, family. She aims to inspire, educate, and support others on their journey to better health. She's outgoing, humble, unique, inventive, often selfless, driven, a steadfast survivor, optimistic, gracious, intuitive, and someone I call my sister. Ladies and gentlemen, Vanessa Whitfield. What's up, Vanessa? How you doing, sis? How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Man, I'm doing good. Thank you for that grand entrance there. I appreciate that.
Yes. That's what we do. Well, listen, we're going to kick this right off. So, family, health and wellness. What is health and wellness? You hear it all the time. It's different than what it used to be. You know, when we was coming up, you didn't hear health and wellness. You didn't hear people talking about, you know, my overall well-being or how I'm feeling. People just dealt with their stuff regularly. They kept it all bottled up. If you were sick, you went to the doctor, and that was it. Whatever the doctor prescribed, you kind of just went along with it. But in today's world, health and wellness is very important. It's a vital aspect of our lives every day. It's a vital aspect of how we feel and how we think. So I wanted to discuss this topic because there are some misconceptions about it. There are some, I guess, preconceived notions about what health and wellness is. So, family, I'm going to ask you what you think health and wellness is, and then we'll actually kind of get the definition of it. So, Ty, what do you think health and wellness is?
Deals with the overall health of the body and the functioning of the systems in place. To me, that's what it is.
T, what do you think?
I feel like what you said, overall health in the body, but I also think mental health is a big part of it. Your mental, because you can't fix anything else unless your mental is correct, or at least I don't want to say okay. I'm not using the right terminology, but you have to fix your mental before you can fix anything else. That's what I believe. Mm-hmm.
And I always think that's an important aspect that people sometimes forget, is that your mental health is a vital aspect of your overall health and wellness. So let's go to somebody who's very familiar with the topic. Vanessa, what do you think, or what have you known that the health and wellness, what does it mean?
Yeah, you know, when we talk about health and wellness, I do think of it in terms of a holistic view. So it is the body and the systems and their interconnectedness. But your mental health, your emotional well-being. And I would throw in also your spiritual health, your financial health. There are so many aspects that really play a part in your well-being. And we actually, in the training that I received, we talk about primary and secondary foods. And you would think when you're talking about primary and secondary, it's like, oh, primary is going to be like broccoli and kale. And then secondary is going to be like potatoes or something that's not like high up there. But actually, the secondary foods refer to everything that's put on your plate. The primary foods are actually things like your community and, physical activity is in there, your spiritual life, your career, your education, your relationships, because all of those things are actually more fundamental. You can be eating all the broccoli in the world, but if you're in an abusive relationship, that broccoli is not going to help you. So,
that's Ty. Like, that's See, that's what we talk about right there. Like, that's exactly what I was hoping for when we talked to him. And I was like, yo, Vanessa, come on, this was exactly what I was hoping for. As far as what I've kind of researched about it, they say there's 5 components of mental health, maybe even 7. But the 5 components they talk about are physical, emotional, social, spiritual, intellectual, environmental, and occupational. So those 5 to 7 components make up the whole well-being of your health and wellness. A lot of times they think doctors sometimes talk about health and wellness, and it starts off with how you're feeling and all that stuff. But like what you said was so key. You can eat whatever you like and eat healthy and all that, but if your mental or your environment or your social aspect is not where it needs to be, it will hinder you emotionally. So that's one thing affects the other. So if you don't have those things in line, or even start working on one thing at a time, everything else can fall apart, just in general. So like, they talk about the physical, exercising, of course, but in a pandemic and life and having a family, having kids, just working, a lot of us can't exercise like we want to. So that's sometimes you check that box, like, yeah, I got to exercise more. Okay, that's fine. All right, you got to exercise more. The emotional aspect, like people talk about, let me go get a therapist. Let me go talk to somebody about my emotions and how I'm feeling. Let me talk to a friend, someone close. Sometimes it's hard to share with people exactly how you're feeling for reasons of judgment, for reasons of, you're not used to sharing. A lot of us don't like to be vulnerable. I mean, I know I'm one of them. So it's like you bottle everything up, you keep everything close to you, and that affects your health and your wellness. Then you talk about the social aspect. I have been known to be an antisocial person at times, because I like to be by myself sometimes, but that's not always a good thing. You have to have people that you can relate to that can help you go over what you might be feeling inside, whether it's depression, anxiety, PTSD, whatever it may be. You have to have people that you can talk to help you with that. And I mean, Ty can tell you, T can tell you, both of them can tell you, I've had some things happen, and if I didn't have them to be there for me, I'm not sure exactly how I would feel, because like I said, I keep everything bottled up. Then you talk about the spiritual side. Now, we're not talking about church. We're not talking about going to church every day or going to church every week. We're talking about your actual spiritual health, like how you feel in terms of, I guess, your higher being. You know what I mean? How are you connecting with your spiritual side? Are you meditating? Are you taking a moment in the morning before you go in to gather yourself so that you can feel emotionally ready to go in there? I mean, spirituality is different for everybody. It's not the same. So I always think like you have to have a certain kind of like je ne sais quoi for your spirit to feel like you're going to, you're heading in the right direction. And then you talk about the intellectual side. That's really your creative aspect. What are you doing to keep your mind motivated to go forward? I mean, I know for me, it's doing a podcast. For me, it's creating music. For me, it's reading. It's learning more about things I didn't know about. That's the intellectual aspect of it, and just staying on those things. Now, I just mentioned 5 things, and for an average person, that's a lot to deal with on a daily basis. That's a lot to take on. So I feel like, and Vanessa, you tell us, do you feel like as a person, you should tackle things one at a time? Or because some people think about, I got to do everything at one time. I got to put it all on my plate and then do everything. But do you feel like it's that, or do you feel like it's more take each day at a time and maybe tackle one thing each day?
Yeah, everyone is different. I think everyone approaches it differently. I do think that, and something that I do in health coaching is helping people create specific, attainable goals, something that's measurable, something that is, again, specific. And I do tend to, when I say attainable, I want it to be realistic. And so sometimes if somebody is completely overwhelmed, and the people that I'm working with typically are just, I feel like we're all in a category right now, like everybody's just like sinking, right? But I think that overall, because I'm working with women who are feeling burned out or just feeling like everything is just way too much, we take it down to just one thing at a time, like you said. But I know there are other people who they're like, let me know what I need to do and let me knock it out. And they may go at a quicker pace just because that's their personality, and they're able to do that, with whatever they've got on their plate.
Is it more to the point of, like, we deal with people in a very kind of like, we try to understand people's, I guess, what they're going through. We try to be a listening ear, but not all the time are we good at it. You know what I mean? Sometimes we just say, just get over it. It's just get over it type of attitude. Do you feel like, particularly in communities of color, that's kind of like a misconception or the wrong perception when it comes to health and wellness?
I do. And, I will also say, the majority of women, I'm trying to think. No, I've had one person who's not a woman of color. But most of my clients have been women of color as well. And I just find that, there's a lot of pressure that is felt to just keep it together and to just keep on going. And I think you made reference to this earlier. Like, if you are not like dying, then you're fine. Just keep going. And there's a lot of historical stuff that would make one feel like that is the only way to go. So I do think there's a lot of history there, but I don't think that it's the healthiest way, because like you said, bottling things up. Somebody used an illustration with me once, and it really stuck. They said, when you bottle up an emotion, particularly strong emotions, whether they're from childhood or, current relationships, you stuff it down, and it's like trying to stuff down a beach ball underwater. Eventually that thing's just going to pop up somewhere. And you don't know where it's going to pop up, but it will pop up, and it will show up in different areas of your life. And you may not even know that it's related until you do the hard work of sort of figuring out the root cause, like what is really at the root of why you're feeling the way you're feeling. So, yeah, I think all that needs to be addressed.
And I don't mean to kind of bombard everything. Ty, I know you got something you probably want to throw in. I'm tired of the slogans. It's okay not to be okay. Like, yeah, okay, that's a great way to think about it. It's okay not to be okay, but I'm not okay, so I need help. You know what I mean? And yeah. I think the slogans are a great marketing way to get people to pay attention to the subject, but I don't think that they really dial in what really people are feeling really wholeheartedly. Like, if it's okay not to be okay and I'm not okay, what is your solution to help me not be, help me feel better? What's your solution to help me get over this hump? Because that's really what it is. We all go through trials and tribulations. We all think that being positive about everything is going to make it better. And that's not always being ultra positive is not always going to be the best solution. You know what I mean? I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic, but I've had some things be taken away from me that kind of took my optimism as well. So you feel like if I'm not my optimistic person, there's something wrong. You know what I mean? And I don't like the slogans because they do not really give answers, really give answers to people that really need them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna be quiet right now. Ty, I know you got something to say. Go ahead, bro.
The process that you go through with your clients, like, how do you start and prepare to help them out? So
my programs are client-centered. And so what I mean by that is I don't have a program that just everybody just runs through that program. I do have timelines, like if somebody wants to work with me for 3 months or if they want to work with 6 months. And the first thing that everybody does, they fill out, the health forms, and, we ask all the questions there, but we'll go through that health history. But then one of the most critical parts actually comes just right after that, when we go through something I call the circle of life. And in that, we look at all of the primary foods that I mentioned before, the spirituality and their education, their career, physical activity is on their relationship, social life, joy, home environment. I mean, it's extensive. There are 12 categories. I ask my clients to rate each category and to tell me sort of where is their level of satisfaction in terms of, that category for them, based on where their strengths are and their, lesser strengths, shall we say. We will work toward bringing more balance. It's really used as a snapshot to see how their life is right now. We all go through different seasons, and, my circle of life 2 years ago does not look like my circle of life right now. It may not even look the same in 3 months, because, a lot of things can change. And so the idea is to use it as a tool to be able to, I guess, create the balance, like I said. Aside from that, I always ask the client, what kind of goals, what are they hoping to get out of this? And you have all kinds of different answers. You have one who just wants to improve sleep and otherwise thinks, everything is fine. But in the course of working with me, realizes, actually, okay, so there were some relationship issues that I guess I wasn't really aware of. But now that you mention it, I'm really not happy about X, Y, and Z. And so we might, go into there. I am not a therapist. I clarify multiple times that, I am not a therapist. I'm also not a doctor. I will not diagnose. I do not treat. But I also am like, I'm almost like a resource also. Like, I'm coaching, I'm on your side. I'm like cheering you on, trying to help you where you feel you need help. And maybe spotlight some areas where you don't think you need help, but I may notice that you might need some gentle movement in a better direction. And then I try to point you to, to people who might be able to help, whether that is, a counselor or a functional medical doctor or whatever. So that's sort of how that goes. And so every client looks different.
My second question is, do you just work with women, or do you also help out men as well?
That's a great question. So far I've only had women, and I really do have a passion to work with women. But I have, I've never had a man ask me if he could work with me. So I don't know that I would turn a man down. I think, especially coming from the caregiver position, of course, a man can also be a caregiver. That's a big part of my story, just being the mom of these 4 kids and my journey with them. And sorry, it's a long-winded answer, but question mark.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
I can dig it. See, I know you got a question, and we're gonna let you jump into it. We're gonna take a quick break after you, but go ahead.
Okay. My question was for you was, how did you get all into the holistic approach and helping others and things like that? Like, was it just always a dream, or an always thing that you wanted to do? Was something that you always want to do? That's the correct terminology.
Yeah. How much time you got before the break?
Keep on going.
Well, so no, this was not my dream. I had some slight interest in health stuff, even as a young child, but I didn't even know what a health coach was. But I really did come by this, honestly. My children really started one by one. One of my kids got severely ill. And she was so sick and so unwell. But every doctor that we went to and every single test that came back normal. It was so, it was to the point where we were like, no, there's got to be something happening here. And, it started with, headaches and pains in her feet and pains in her arms or her hands. So nothing terribly alarming, but I just saw it sort of continue to get worse and worse. And we had seen allergists and asthma specialists. She had, started having sort of weightiness on her chest and trouble breathing. And I'm just like, what is really going on? And, as a mom, I was concerned, but I'm going to the experts and everybody's telling me she's fine. So I'm like, okay, she's fine. And in, months and months later, she had a drastic turn for the worse. And she passed out in my bathroom one night, and we had to call the ambulance. She had been gasping for air. So, I mean, at this point, we're like, oh, no, somebody's going to figure this out. And even in the hospital, all of her vitals were normal. All of her levels were normal. MRIs, CAT scans, everything normal. While we're in the hospital, I just want to paint the picture of how drastic this was. She was losing her vision. She was losing her hearing. She was having seizure-like activity, but they were saying they were not seizures, but I'm watching her body convulsing. And when those doctors surrounded me and told me, your daughter's perfectly healthy, I wept. I wept. I wept. I wept. I did all of those. I did both. And it was such a devastating feeling. And they sent me home with a list of psychologists and said that maybe she's anxious. And I am so thankful for her pediatrician, because her pediatrician really listened to me and said to me in our follow-up, she said, Mom, what is your sense of what's going on? And I said, I have no idea, but she's not anxious. That's not what's going on. I don't know what they're saying, if this is some kind of panic attack, but this was just an overnight sudden change. And so she worked with me to just keep up with her symptoms. Fast forward, she did some specialized testing, and it was like maybe 3 months later that we were able to get some specialized testing from this doctor that showed that she had some nutritional deficiencies. And although that's not really something to celebrate, for me, I'm like, thank you, because something finally showed up that was wrong. And we had already started seeing a psychologist who was like, she doesn't seem anxious. I don't know what's wrong. This seems like something organic happening. Fast forward again. All right. So these are months and months of just it was not livable. Like I was thinking we had to get like an in-home caregiver. I was thinking we might have to like get a caregiver for the other kids. Like, I just didn't know what we were going to do, because the other 3 kids were just like watching everything, and things just got progressively worse. If that wasn't even bad enough, right? Like she really, it was almost like she became a different person. She was always in pain, yelling, catatonic, paralysis. I mean, it was really heart-wrenching. And finally, we were able to get a diagnosis that seemed to, it was sort of a diagnosis of exclusion, but I was glad for something. But it wasn't until a year later that they ran some tests. And at this point, not only was my daughter suffering, my son started to suffer. And then my other children, all of them, behavioral changes, hyperactivity, lack of focus. I mean, I have one child who is particularly chill. I mean, he was like born out of the womb chill. Okay. These kids had changed drastically. They conducted some more specialized testing. This fantastic pediatrician that we see found that they had mold toxicity. So wow. As we found that out, and it was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. We found the source. We started to, treat, things started, getting better. And at that point, I felt like, me and the pediatrician were tight. We were like, but I also was like, I need to respect, like, I can't be calling her every day. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? I can't, I've heard too much about the gut brain axis. Like, I need to understand what's really going on. They talked about gut inflammation and neuroinflammation. And I'm like, I don't know, but none of these sound good to me. So I just need to learn, because I need to take care of my kids. Yeah. And that's how I started the program. I knew that it was a health coaching program, but I had zero interest or bandwidth to even be thinking about a career. My husband, who is a visionary and has plenty of visions for my life, was like, "Me, yo, you could be a health coach after this." And I was like, well, no, hold up. I don't think you understand. I'm like, I'm doing this because I need to learn and our kids need to get better. Yeah. And he was like, yeah. I'm just saying, like, down the road. And I'm like, look, I can't go there with you. Okay. Just like, let me just look right here. And now he's like, yeah, now what? Now what? Because
I told you, right?
Yes. And so once the kids started getting better and they were stable, and I saw just how an alternative approach to healing was what saved them. Yeah. I was like, oh no. See, this is, I can't keep this to myself. And that's when I became passionate about helping others just become empowered and not let doctors are amazing, but they also don't know everything.
No, they don't. I'll tell you that they don't know. There's a lot they don't know. There's an awful lot they don't know. They're used to kind of, they read charts and they make diagnoses based on the information they get, the data that they receive. So once they receive the data, they'll look at it and they make, really it's an assumption judgment, I would say, that it's this, where it can be something different.
That's right.
And if they're not familiar with it, if they don't know how to quote unquote fix it, everything's fine.
Yes.
And when you've been through experiences with doctors that don't want to work as hard as they need to find a diagnosis that is proper, or even think outside the box to think maybe this is something else other than what I'm thinking it might be, or get additional counseling from other doctors that can help them explain. I mean, it's like, it is what it is. And I'm not trying to say anything about the doctors or anybody in the medical profession. I'm just saying they're people like we are,
that's right.
And they're trained a certain kind of way. So because they're trained a certain kind of way, they stick to their training. A lot of times within your training, you have to think outside the box. You have to think, you have to be bigger than that. And, it's particularly with us people of color, it's like we come from a different background where, grandma gave us these remedies that worked, my mom gave me this, my dad did this for me when I was a kid. And I mean, that's the kind of like how we are. And I mean, that's part of a holistic side of it. So if you have a holistic and a medical side, you combine those two, that's what helps people become better. That's what helps them become better.
Well, and I think one thing that I have found also is, and my pediatrician put it so well at one point, when we're following up, I mean, every 2 weeks we got these appointments, and that's like now that it's been spread out, right? Before it was like 3 times a week. So she says to me, Vanessa, we are not just looking for the absence of symptoms. We really want the kids to be thriving. We want them to be well. And I think one of the things that I learned in this program is just the idea that we have a medical system, but the medical system is geared toward disease management, not prevention, not wellness. And so in my training, like, we're not trying to get you to where you have the disease. Now, if you have the disease, well, let's see how we can help. But we really want to prevent the disease and encourage people to, actually be well.
Ms. Vanessa, I mean, you touched on a point there, because my experience with doctors, for example, I see it whereas we have symptoms with many causes, or we have a cause with many symptoms. And they would try to get me to take 3 different types of blood pressure medications. And I'm like, why do you want to take 3 different types of blood pressure medications? If I'm sitting down, I'm not doing nothing at all, I'm relaxed, and my blood pressure is high, then I feel as though there's something going on in my body somewhere, and I need to know what it is, as far as just taking 3 pills a day for 30 days for 1 year. And I done put over 1,000 pills into my body in 1 year, and I'm still having high blood pressure. Doesn't make sense. And one of my doctors, actually, I don't know if she slipped up or not, but I had a late afternoon appointment. It was around 4:00. I didn't take my blood pressure medication that day. And so they took my blood pressure was high. She's like, well, your blood pressure is rather high today. Did you take your medication? I said, yeah, I took it first thing this morning, like around 6:30, 7 o'clock. And she was like, well, yeah, that's about right. They only work for about 8 hours anyway. And I'm like, okay, yes. I said the same thing, like they only work for 8 hours. And that is they only work for 8 hours. But still, if you don't take the pill and you're relaxed and your blood pressure high, it has to be something else going on. Is it the magnesium in your body? Like there has to be an origin to the cause, not so much salt, because I don't eat salt. I don't do things that's causing my blood pressure to go up. So either my body's not producing something or it's producing too much of something and they're not telling me. And that's what I'm trying to find out. So I guess that will come into functional medicine. Is that about?
Yeah. So functional medicine deals with the root causes.
1 second. Y'all diving deep. This is exactly what I was hoping for. This was exactly what I was hoping for. Look, we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come right back. We're gonna jump right into this functional medicine because listen, family, this is exactly what when we set out to do this topic, this was what I hoped would come about. So we're gonna take a quick break. So remember, family, you can call us with your comments, questions at 844-844-1244. Again, it's 844-844-1244. You can also email us at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. It's JIMMYBONDS podcast@gmail.com. You listen to Jimmy Bond's podcast on Illadelphia Radio. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Megan from Abu Dhabi. Listen to Jimmy Bond's podcast on Illadelphia Radio.
Welcome back to the Jimmy Bonds podcast on Illadelphia Radio. We thank you for listening. Remember, family, you can call us at 844-844-1244. Again, it's 844-844-1244. You can also email us at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, it's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. That's JIMMYBONDS podcast@gmail.com.
And welcome back to Jimmy Bond's podcast on Illadelphia Radio. Remember, family, you can call us with your comments or questions at 844-844-1244. Again, it's 844-844-1244. You can also email us at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, it's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. It's JIMMYBONDS podcast@gmail.com. Remember, family, we are also continuing our Artist Spotlight series. Check it out. IlladelphiaRadio.com. Check it all out. But on this particular episode, family, we are talking about health and wellness with our sister, Vanessa Whitfield. She's dropping some knowledge, dropping her experience about what she's experienced with the health and wellness field, telling us her story about how she fell into the industry or the career path that she has. And I invite everybody to go back and listen to the first segment because she shared so much about her story with her children, how it affected her, the medical field, hospitals, doctors, that good thing. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people out there have experienced something similar. So I know that it's something that we all go through. Doctors don't know everything, although sometimes we wish they did, but they don't. And a lot of times you have to find that doctor that fits your need and fits what you need to help you and your family get better. And we talked about health and wellness in the sense of what the components, what health and wellness really means as far as like to each individual person. But on this segment, I kind of wanted to talk about functional medicine. Vanessa and Ty asked a question. Ty was about to get into it, but I wanted Vanessa to talk about that aspect of it. What is functional medicine, and how does it affect us every day?
So functional medicine looks at the root cause of things, right? So if you go to a typical, a traditional medical doctor, I should say, you'll go in, if you have a headache, they'll say, okay, well, how long have you had the headache? And they might ask you a few questions. And you'll probably leave there with a prescription for a higher dose of ibuprofen. If that doesn't work, then you'll come back and they might give you something else, or they might at that point, do an MRI or something like that. Whereas the functional medical doctor will be more interested in knowing, it's not just that the headache is there. Why is it there to begin with? What is it that's causing that headache? And that way we eliminate the headache, right? So functional medical doctors are not against medicine by any means, but they're not just looking at symptoms and trying to treat the symptoms. They're looking at the symptoms, and it's almost like some detective work. And they do have specialized testing that allows them to look at, nutrition profiles, your minerals, your vitamins, because all of those things play a part. And there is a lot of use of food as, as healing elements. And I think we've lost that. I mean, in this country, for sure, we've just lost the idea that food can have healing components, because we are just sort of go. Nobody's thinking about food. It's just, it tastes good. Is it cheap? Like, let's just go. But food has a lot of things that can bring healing to the body. So that's sort of where the functional medicine world goes.
Yeah, functional medicine. Yeah, what you put in your body. I mean, I wish I had known this before some of the things that happened to me in my experience. I'll tell you. Okay, so what you should know, and I think T knows this too. Ty is a survivor from, well, it wasn't a heart attack. It was open heart surgery, Ty. He's a survivor of open heart surgery. So that's one. I'm a stroke survivor. So that's another. We have had to kind of navigate what life is like after that. A lot of people tell you, because I can't stand people that be like, I'm vegan. Like, that's better than living life. Like, I'm way better than you because I'm vegan. Like, you know what? Take you vegans, go ahead with your snootiness and kick rocks, because this is not the way life really is. Like, not everybody's going to be vegan. Not everybody can afford to be vegan. Just because you're vegan doesn't mean that you're better than me. Okay, I'm just going to say that. All right.
Sounds like you got some pent up bitterness.
No. It's just that it's just like people talk about being vegan like it's their race. Like, being a vegan is the society of it. But I mean, I think more than anything else, it's like it is about food being able to heal. Food being able to get you to the next place or help you feel better. Like, what are you eating? What are you eating that makes you feel bad? What are you eating that makes you feel better? When I think about health in general, if you take the T and the H away, what do you have? You have heal. And I think most of us are thinking about healing from something that we've been through. And the food that we eat should be a healing component in every aspect of what we do. Now, of course, we want it to taste good, because that's important. It has to have taste to it. But I think food, particularly in our culture, has always had a place of camaraderie, a place of togetherness, a place of let's break bread. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things. I mean, you eat at church, you eat dinner every night with not every night. Some people don't, but you eat dinner with your family. You have Thanksgiving. You have all the Black holidays that we celebrate. So it's one of these things that I'm always thinking, like, the food that we eat. And I say Black people always eat the worst food because we eat the food that's the worst for us. But a lot of times these foods do help us feel better. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes I feel a lot better eating a good pan of macaroni and cheese.
But isn't that why it's called soul food?
That's why they call it soul food.
I don't think the food is bad. I think it's how we prepare it. Again, like, they always tie us to fried chicken, but there's like 1,000 Chinese stores that fry chicken, but they don't eat fried chicken. They eat broth with vegetables. We'll take broth and vegetables and make a gravy. Now you're adding starches and stuff that goes against your body. I don't think it's so much what we're eating is how we prepare it. And I think what Ms. Vanessa said too, when you talk to the spiritual aspect of it and the environment, our environments are prone and we're programmed to eat certain things in a certain way. Whereas I think what Ms. Vanessa is talking about, if you can change your spiritualness, your environment, and your culture, that can help out with some of the problems, issues that we have with our health. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know if I would phrase it that way, especially the culture part. Okay. Just because I think culture is very important and valuable. I think that in the world of functional nutrition, for example, and even just, now with the health coaching, like, there is a concept of bio-individuality, which basically is just to say every single person is different. And what will affect one is not, may not affect the other the same way. And just to give you an example, right? So I am married to someone who can cook very well. He is the bomb. He smokes meat. It is so good. He does fried chicken. He does the whole thing. whenever he's making bacon or sausage, like we've had some marital discussions about the frequency with which, we might have some of these things. And, we're raising 4 kids, right? To my great surprise, right now with our mold, I guess I didn't finish that story. So I also have mold toxicity, right? So we all, obviously I am not as affected as the kids have been, but it really got to me in December, right? So I'm working with a nutritionist myself who targets mold detox and, what that looks like. And do you know what she told me? She said, okay, so I really like that you're eating chicken. That's fine. I really need you to eat more animal protein and particularly animal fats. And I'm like, I'm sorry, come again? And she just kept on talking about, the marbling of the meat. Now, granted, she did talk about, how the animal was raised and all of this, but just how that will help in this particular condition with, cellular health and regeneration, and that we need a lot of that. And I'm like, so do you mean breakfast meats also? And she said, oh, absolutely. That absolutely. Of course, go back to my husband. And I'm like, Russ, you are not going to believe what the nutritionist told me. And when I told him, he was like, I've been telling you this our whole married life. You just need to have more, more of this, So I was just so shocked, right? But what works for me right now may not be true of someone who is struggling with high cholesterol, or who, for example, who just had a stroke, right? Like that may not be the same criteria. So sorry, I got lost here. You were talking about, not just the food, but the way that you prepare it. I mean, yeah, I think it's all and. Sometimes it is the food, right? Like sometimes, the Cheetos, like, sorry, maybe it's that I didn't really like Cheetos to begin with, right? So it's very easy for me to be like, yeah, the Cheetos just need to go. But, macaroni and cheese, like, it depends. Like, how often are you having it? What are you eating it with? Or are you combining it with anything? Can you make it any healthier? Like, do you have to put the pepperoni in? I know some people put pepperoni or they top it with bacon. Like, yeah, I know. It's just you got all different kinds of macaroni and cheese, right? Can you make some changes, or can you think about smaller portions? If that is really just like a holiday thing, what are we talking about? A few times a year? That's not what the problem is. The problem is not really the holidays. The problem is what you were doing between the holidays, right? Like the rest of the days. So I do think that is part of it. But yes, environment. I mean, toxicity. It's not just mold toxicity. Like we all putting all kinds of chemicals on our body, in our body, breathing it in. I mean, we're just in a different world nowadays. Yeah. So it's all encompassing, really.
I see, Todd, them vegans, bro. Them vegans, they always got something to say. Like, but I know that just because I'm not vegan doesn't mean that I'm going to die early. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sorry, I just had to throw that in there. See, I know you got something to say, sis. Go ahead.
I feel that. I don't know what to say. Talking about dying and vegan and all that stuff, but she actually answered my question without me even asking the question about the eating healthy and things like that. I was like, what I was going to say, well, what do you think will help with health? What different foods? But you just said it. Like you said, everything in proportion, basically. Proportion. I don't need that mac and cheese every day at 5 o'clock. Maybe I'll do it once a month. Maybe I'll do it once a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And why I have to add that pig fat to the collard greens? You just make collard greens. Probably no. I take that back. When I said it, I take that back. You do have to have pork fat in the collard greens. Take that back.
Don't you even start.
Take that back. Sorry. Sorry. I don't.
Well, if you're me, you probably need to add more of the pig fat, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah.
I think I just said it and didn't think about what I was saying. Take that back. Sorry. Take that back.
And I think some of this stuff is very intuitive too, and we just we tend to want. I mean, some of us are rebellious. I don't fall in that category. I'm very much like a rule follower, and like just give it to me and let me see how I can make it work.
Yeah.
But like we know that generally speaking, like fruits are good for you, right? Don't put them in all the syrup. Like eat them as naturally as possible. Like we know that. We don't need a doctor to tell us that. Vegetables, like eat vegetables and eat a lot of them and eat them frequently, right? I mean, I think that some of these things are pretty basic, but we're just, we're so busy. We're so busy that ain't nobody got time for that. It's just like, we're just go, 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 go,
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, we're full of being parents, even with T's situation, going to work every day and just having to take care of our own self. Like, it's not easy. Yeah, right. You're the firstborn on top of that. So, I mean, it's not easy. It's not. That's why even when you talk about health and wellness, I always find that people they jump on these slogans so much. They jump on it and they're just so, health and wellness, health and wellness. I'm thinking about it, but it's like, there are so many components of this thing and you have to master it for your body, for what works for you. And sometimes, you could tell a person, hey, this is what I'm doing and it's working for me, but whatever you might tell them might not work for them. So you have to make sure that person or what you're doing for yourself is working, not try to push everything on people because it's working for you. If it's working for you, it is, and that's great. If it doesn't work for the next person, okay. I find that a lot of times, like we find things like, oh, this worked for me, this worked for everybody. Like, no, it really doesn't. Because I mean, you talking about COVID, you talk about burnout. You want to talk about burnout? Like, just imagine having 3-4 kids, 5 kids during COVID, virtual learning, having to figure that out, waking up every day, time and time again, like Groundhog's Day, and doing this every day. And then you want me to focus on my health? I'm just trying to get through the day. I'm trying to just give me that burger because I just need to put something in my mouth so I can eat. You know what I'm saying? Give me them fries so I can hurry up and eat this food because I'm too tired to even think about cooking. Like, really.
So I love that you mentioned that, because I think, like, just to be clear about where the health coach's role is, and this is what I love about it so much, is, the doctor doesn't have time. The doctor, you are with the doctor for 10 minutes, they give you the diagnosis, they tell you what you need, go take the medicine, come back and see me if there's a problem. And then you come back and it's the same thing. When you have a health coach, the health coach is checking in with you. You've got an entire session devoted to talk about your health, like 50 minutes to talk. What? Like, that is just unheard of. And it's you specifically. So the health coach, there is education involved, sure, but it's not like a lecture style. It's very much an interactive, discussion. And the health coach is trying to help the client along to make behavioral changes, trying to instill those habits. So talk to me about that burger, right? Like, what is it about that burger? And once you realize, oh, well, it's the ease of it, or I just need something that's like filling so that I can make it through, whatever it is, the health coach then helps you pinpoint, helps you explore the whys so that you can then make an adequate change that works for you.
I was going to ask you too, what do you think of this new app or this new company called Noom?
I don't really know much about it. Was that like a workout app, isn't it?
No, it's like a psychological app that people use to kind of change their eating habits or change the way they consume food. And I guess it's catered to them individually. That's what you talked about, the individual bio. I'm sorry, I don't know how you said it.
Bio-Individuality.
Yes, bio-individuality.
Yes.
That's what this kind of is, in a sense. It helps people figure out where they were eating wrong or how their body works with the food that they're eating. What time it's better to eat for you. And because I went to the doctor, got a physical, I was like, yeah, well, if I stop eating late, then maybe I can lose some weight. And they were like, no, sometimes that doesn't work for everybody. Like, and that's the other thing too. Like, medicine has changed from when we were kids, when we were growing up. Like, it has changed. It has kind of evolved into being more about how a person operates for themselves than just being like every person. Oh, you 5'4", you're 180 pounds. You have to act like this is what works for you, or you 6'2" and you 300 pounds. Then you need to figure out exactly how you're gonna lose that weight. Especially with the misconceptions of being skinny is being healthy. You know, that's just, everyone always throws it out. If you're skinny, you're healthy. And it's like, no, everybody's different. You know, everybody has a different body mass. Everybody has a different genetics, just in general. So you always feel like you have to figure out what works for you and what makes you feel the best, period. I've always said it. I love working out. There was times when I was never able to work out. You have 2 kids, you exercise them. What? So like exercising? Like you knew me in high school. I was athlete Bob in high school. But exercising like now, like boy. But I've developed a regimen. I wake up at 6 o'clock and the first thing I do is work out. I might not be dropping sweat all day or going ham, but I've developed a habit. And now I don't want to leave the house without doing it, because that's what makes me feel better. That's what makes me kind of get my mental right. I mean, it develops my mental, gets my mental ready, it gets me, you know, whatever I might have been angry about before I work out, I ain't angry no more. I'm good. I'm just keep, I'm just go ahead and do this thing. So it's just it's something that you have to make a conscious effort, because if you don't make the conscious effort, it's not going to get there. I think that's the biggest thing people battle with, is making the effort, the conscious effort of it. It's making the effort, having the time, and being consistent. I think those are the 3 aspects that people kind of lack sometimes, is having the time, being consistent. I mean, sometimes you got to make it like, no, I'm going to do this right now. You know, if I got to wake up a half hour earlier, okay, so be it. You know what I mean? If I get out of bed, okay, so be it. Now, that's so much easier said than done. You know, that's so easier said than done. You might have had the night before, your child couldn't sleep, and you was up with them till 2 o'clock in the morning. You might not feel like working out the next day. That's just what it is. Or you just couldn't sleep that night, and you wake up and it's just, I don't have that in me today. You know, so it definitely varies from person to person. I think each person is different. I think each person has their own journey with it. And I think as people and individuals, I think we have to appreciate everyone's individual journey and not push anything on them that's just because I do it doesn't mean that someone else is going to be beneficial to someone else, you know? And that's kind of like the way I think about everything. Just because you get married doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else. Or just because you're working a job and they're paying you a lot of money doesn't mean that job's going to work for you. I mean, I look the same thing with health. And so, you know, I hope everybody listening to this can understand that your journey is your journey. Don't let anybody dictate how your journey is. Every day we wake up, we get another day to keep going on the journey. And sometimes all you have to do is just start. Just start. As hard as that could be sometimes, you just have to start. And you start small, and then you can build from there. And, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, wasn't built in a year, but it was built. And I think that's kind of how you have to look at it. Eventually it's going to pay off if you continue, you know, you stay consistent. That's just my view of it. You know, I'm not a doctor. I'm not like my sister Vanessa, who's a nutritionist and who understands certain aspects of it. But I can tell you just from people I've met and things I've seen that it takes time. And be kinder to yourself. That's really important. Be kind to yourself. Do not beat yourself up over the things that sometimes are out of your control, you know, and I mean, that's my spiel about it. I mean, I said enough. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take up all that time. I just was going off because I just, you know, it's important. Health and wellness is vital for everyone, not just in the Black community, not just in the Hispanic community, not just in the Asian community. In every community, health and wellness is important. The health and wellness is not just what you eat. It's not just, you know, how you feel. It has so many different things to it. It's a moving target, really. And you have to kind of move with the target. You know, that's just my view. And I'm done talking now. So Ty, go ahead, bro. My bad. Go ahead, bro.
So, Ms. Vanessa, as far as nutrition, do you see where some people are lacking in their nutrition that come to you asking for help? Like, is there like a common nutritional, I guess, defect that you see in people? Or
yeah, I think that for the most part, people don't pay much attention to what they're eating, and they tend to overestimate the amount of, you know, fruits and vegetables that they're eating. So they think, because they know that they need to eat those things. And so they know they need to drink more water. They know they should be using the bathroom regularly. But when it comes to actually figuring out, like, okay, so what did that look like? What was breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you know, for the last 2 days? You know, there's a big what is it's not a disconnect. It's just, you know that you should be doing one thing, but you are doing the other. And it's not always drastic. It's not like people are eating McDonald's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's really just, I see that, people don't have time. And so cooking, there's just not a lot of home cooking happening. And I mean, already that I think creates some problems. So, does that answer your question?
Yes. Now, yes, it does. Yes. So the other question was, what part does our spirituality plays in this as far as healing, functional medicine, or functional health? What part does the spiritual plays in this? If you can elaborate on that.
Yeah. Spiritual, when they talk about spiritual life, we talk about the idea of just understanding that there is a connection to a greater being than ourselves. Being able to go out in nature, for instance, and know like there is a creator who created this tree or these mountains or, whatever that may be. And so I personally am a Christian, and unashamedly so, in the sense that, if my clients ask me, this is who I am. But I think that where I see it plays a significant role is, your belief system, your understanding of, or your believing that you can get better, is also really important. And I'm careful to say that because I'm not proposing if you believe it, then it will happen. Okay. Kind of theology. Because I am not personally with that.
Right.
However, I think that trusting, look, the last 2 weeks, for instance, we had just a pretty horrifying series of events that happened just one after the other. I can say all the positive stuff like you were talking about, before, like I can say like, oh, it can only get better from here, right? Like it's all going to work out. Like it's all going to be good. But really what held me and what had me literally hold it together was the confidence in knowing I trust my spirituality. I trust that God is for me. I trust that despite all these trials and all these negative things that are happening, like he is still good and he has my best interest in mind. That core belief absolutely shapes how I go through a trial. Right. So that's just an example for me and my own walk of faith. And so I think that anybody's spirituality is going to affect them. If you believe like, well, what comes around goes around, or like, you believe in karma, like that's going to affect how you act, right? Because you're like, oh, wait, it's going to be coming back to me. I better act right now. Like, so all of these spiritual thoughts have a deep, deep impact on how we live our lives.
And my last thing is, you mentioned about the environment and the impact that has on us, like the impact that it has on us from a health standpoint. Can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. So, two things come to mind. We talk about home environment. So that would be like one of the primary foods that I mentioned before. A home environment can be anything from, what is the atmosphere like in your house? Like, are you in a tense family situation where like people are constantly yelling, people are fighting all the time? Like that is going to affect your blood pressure. That's going to affect your mental capacity to,
that might be my blood pressure right there.
I mean, that's the reality, right? Like, so I think that home environment, now that would be a more evident one. But I also think that, there are other things like when you're if you're in a cluttered home, someone who hoards a lot, or like it's super dusty, it's hard to clean, or things are just sort of scattered all over the place. That is very different from walking into a home that just like, you ever walk into a home and you're just like, I just feel so peaceful. Like it's just so calm here. Like that's the environment That's the environment. Maybe it's a candle that really helps you, right? Like some people really like the incense, other people, they are like, things are color coded. And, again, it depends on what works for you and in your home environment, what is going to help you thrive. But then the other element of environment, as we experienced, is the toxins. We learned the hard way the effect that mold can have on the body. I've heard this. Oh yeah, mold is bad. Mold is bad. But like, I'd never see it. If you looked at our home, you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, that looks like a house that has mold. No, like it was back behind stuff that you just would have never known. So that, but also, everything from shampoos and conditioners and, for women wearing makeup and, perfumes. Like, I am not saying just, abandon it all, but I am going to inform you, like, just be aware that those things do have toxins. And so I was never, my husband called me crunchy, or, he said I was granola, like pretty early on in our marriage. I never adopted the title. I think he has a point, but now with mold toxicity, and they talk about, we all have like these toxin buckets, and that, it's like, if you think about a bucket and it starts filling up, like if it overflows, which is what happened in our case because of the mold, like you better believe now I'm thinking about everything that is being put on my body. I'm like, wait, fragrance? Oh, hold up. No, we need to, because I'm in a situation where I'm like, all the toxins that I can remove so that I can facilitate healing, I'm going to do what I need to do. Right. So those are the kinds of pollution, the EMF, people talk about, electric magnetic fields with the phones and the towers. I mean, it is like a whole nother world, essentially. But that would all fall into the category of toxins. Our drinking water, like organic versus non-organic, pesticides, like all that stuff.
Ty, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's this right up our alley, Ty. This stuff you always talk about, particularly with the electromagnetic fields and all that kind of stuff. Like, this is what we really realized. And our environment does play a major aspect into our mental, our holistic health, I should say. I can shoot, man. I wish I would have taken some years back and took this advice and realized that, I had to get some of the toxins, not the chemicals and the things I put on. I'm just talking about the toxins around me. Sometimes they're people. You know what I mean? Sometimes they're people. So it's Vanessa, like we have been really schooled tonight in a very loving way. And I really appreciate you coming on and just giving your expertise from a person who's had experience within the field and the career wise, and as well as real experience with your life. I feel like I know a lot more about this thing from a different aspect. Health and wellness, you just hear it all the time, but it's so much more to it than just health and wellness. So like, I greatly appreciate you coming on and sharing all your experiences. I'm gonna wrap the show because we could talk about this. We probably need to have a whole nother show, Ty, about this. Next time I'm gonna get some callers in, and we're gonna have some people call in and talk to you about it, because it's. I mean, you have a wealth of knowledge about this thing, and I'm sure it's not just because of what you studied, but it's also from life experience, and that's often the best teacher anyway. Yeah. And I think what you know and how you know it could benefit a lot of people, could really help people feel better about where they are and where they can go. You talk about empowering women. I feel empowered behind this now, Ty. You know what I mean? Like, it ain't just a woman thing; it's a people thing. And that's, you. For me, that's real important, because you talked about how often women want to share more than men. Men don't want to share as much because, again, we don't want to be vulnerable. We're taught not to be vulnerable. So being able to hear everything you're saying and understand it, it's a blessing. It's big. I feel it. I'm like, yeah, man, I say it to myself all the time. Like, so it's really dope. And, sis, you coming on tonight, I haven't seen Vanessa in so many years, and it's such a beautiful time, such a beautiful thing to see you. She's a mom. Like, I knew her before she was a mom and a wife. I knew her before all that, and she knew me before I was a dad and a husband. She knew before I did podcasts and all that kind of stuff. She knew me before that. So,
that's right.
When I tell my sister I love her, I really mean I love her. You know, I'm so happy for her. I'm so pleased to sit here and watch her do her thing and really share her knowledge, and to see her become the woman she is. And I'm not trying to be like, people like, I'm so proud of you. Like, yeah, like, no, like,
I got you.
like, like, no, really, like, I'm my sister, like, yo, you are really doing it. You're doing your thing. We're gonna have to give you some more time to really share what you know and share with some other people, because it's phenomenal. Absolutely.
And thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to be asked. I'm like, hey kids, I think I'm gonna be on the radio. I don't know. They're like, what?
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna be on. It's definitely gonna be on. But when you can tell them, we'll make sure to get you the link. We come on every morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. So
yes.
every day, Monday through Friday, when this episode drops, it'll be, believe me, you'll know it.
Yeah.
The whole family would know it. We'll definitely put it out there for everybody to know. And it's just one of those things when you get to see people that become who they are. It is a blessing. It is an absolute blessing. It's something that you can never take for granted, because people as kids, you never know what people are going to turn out to be.
That's right.
Some people turn out to be drug addicts, convicted murderers, whatever. But when you see someone doing something extremely positive to empower other people, it's what's supposed to be happening. So, Vanessa, for me, for my family, my little ones, I appreciate you coming on. Make sure you please give a shout out to your husband.
I will.
Please do. Please make sure you tell him I said holla. You know what I mean? Please make sure
I
you
will
tell
do
him.
that. Thank
you. Is there anything you want to tell the people before?
Look, it's a pleasure. You want to follow me? Follow me on Instagram. I'm there.
What's your Instagram, Vanessa?
Vanessa_L_Whitfield.
Yes, family.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we put it in the descriptions and on the podcast. You'll make sure you put that on, and you can please follow her. She comes on, she does a live videos, she talks to you. You feel like you know her when you're looking at the videos. So please go check it out. Please go do that. Vanessa, we're gonna have to get a podcast drop and a radio drop from you too when we get off. But Ty, is there anything you wanted to say, bro?
I became the student tonight, and I thank you for your knowledge, your experience, and your information. It was informative, and I thank you for it.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. It really was a pleasure.
Well, fam, that's gonna wrap the show. But you can always call us with your comments or questions at 844-844-1244. Again, that's 844-844-1244. You can also email us at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, it's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. That's JIMMYBONDS podcast@gmail.com. Also, family, remember you can follow us on Instagram at Jimmy Bonds Podcast, on Twitter at Podcast Bonds. Make sure you join the Jimmy Bond Podcast Facebook group. Also, make sure you check out Illadelphiaradio.com for all of our shows, all the shows we have coming up, all of our advertisers, as well as our spotlights, all that good stuff. Please go to Illadelphiaradio.com and check us out. But also, family, remember, we're still in the COVID-19 pandemic, so please, please, please wear your mask, wash your hands, practice social distancing. And remember to tell your friends and your family and your loved ones that you love them, because you never know when you're going to get a second chance. I'm Jimmy Bonds, and I'm out. Peace.
Fam, that's going to wrap the show. We want to thank you for listening to Jimmy Bonds Podcast on Illadelphia Radio. We ask you to leave your comments and questions at 844-844-1244. Again, that's 844-844-1244. You can also email us at jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's jimmybondspodcast@gmail.com. That's JIMMYBONDS podcast@gmail.com. Now remember, family, we are still in the COVID-19 pandemic, so please, please, please remember to wash your hands, wear a mask, and practice social distancing. Also, remember to take nothing for granted and value every opportunity you have with your friends, your family, and your loved ones. For in these times, every moment is sacred. So until the next episode, you can find me on Good Hope Road, screaming, stay up, don't sleep in your dreams. I'm Jimmy Bonds, and I'm out.
Fight on, come on.